Have you heard about this Singapore brand that's causing a stir in elite wellness circles? A CEO just reversed 58 years of aging in 90 days. Longevity Insider Daily. So it looks like this advertorial is written by McNally, but they're coming off as like a third party. So Longevity Insider Daily. When you're writing in advertorials, this works for especially well for certain niches that require some kind of some like external, like they work really well for niches that like actually would make sense that you would report on it. For example, I seen this brand. It was like a health and wellness brands, right? If you're selling some like pelvic supplement, for example, an external party writing your advertorial can make sense. Wealthy executives are trying overseas. This exclusive compound is now available in North America for $48 only. So they're clearly selling to people in America, okay, and they're making that clear. And they're selling this Singapore brand that's causing a stir in elite wellness circles. It looks like they're selling this thing right here, which is all-in-one daily brand, one scoop, universal daily powder supplement, Singapore formula. So it's for reversing aging. 3 months ago, Frank Martinez could barely climb stairs without stopping. His doctor told him to prepare for surgery and scale back expectations. His biological age, 92. He was 67 years old. Today, biological age, 34, no surgery, doing 40 push-ups. Biological age. Okay. Singapore protocol. Billionaires pay $50,000 to access. Today you can get it for $90. So they straight up say the price right here. I mean, they did frame it. Billionaires pay $50,000 to access. You can get it for $90. Personally, I would probably avoid saying that like that early. The phone call that changed everything. Why billionaires fly to Singapore for anti-aging. Okay, so they're clearly selling to older people. Okay, and their kind of mechanism or their kind of like main point is that Singapore brands are causing the stir. So it's like a Singapore product. It's like some brands, like another example could be Japanese treatments, right? Or traditional treatments from like 1,000 years ago, or like a comparable kind of mechanism or a comparable like concept would be those. It could be like, I guess that's like their kind of selling point, right? It's like Singapore people they have that kind of cure. It's like hair loss, right? People go to Turkey for transplants. It's kind of the same thing, which is what you want to do with your advertorials, especially like if you're selling some sort of powder, like, or a supplement. You kind of got to explain it, like what is the supplement for, all right? And they're selling this for anti-aging, which is like pretty big. Like, I would think, like, first time when I think of anti-aging, I'm thinking of like biohackers, right? Biohacking. And there's this one guy, what's his name? Most famous. He's very well known. Brian Johnson, right here. Like, instantly when I'm thinking of this, like older people looking to biohack, and biohacking is just like kind of health, right? Like extending your life or whatever, I'm pretty sure. What is biohacking? Self-improvement, making small changes to your biology. Okay, so utilizing system thinking for the human body. So you're basically optimizing your human health. That's the first thing I thought when I thought of this advertorial. So I would like to include something like that here. Access McNally's Singapore formula. Okay, it's their Singapore formula. Tuesday, 3 p.m. I wonder if this is like custom coded to change every single day. Saw counter 57, meaning it's a 6:47 a.m. today. Okay. Clinical evidence. Let's see what this is. Oh, okay. Well, they got it on their Shopify right here. Typically, I would see brands, they have their FDA document on their Shopify, but they got this random document here that they probably use GPT for. So I see that. But this is actually really helpful for people who are skeptical, right? Even if it's a document that you just make, you can just set it in there. Like, you have GPT make it, you just go through it, boom, you have like a 50-page document, done. Right? Obviously, they put, you can't see because my camera's in the way, but it says, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. So, obviously, they put that for compliance. What else? The decision that determines your wellness future. Path 1, Path 2, 48-hour. After Tuesday, you'll pay full Singapore pricing. Urgent, stock depleting. Your competition is already gaining advantages. Industry have started their wellness private of who've experienced. Your peers who start today will be experiencing optimal wellness. So they're talking about peers here as if it's like a program or something, but I don't think it is a program. It's kind of confusing me a bit. McNally, minimal effects. A single formula that actually supports comprehensive wellness. Most wellness charge $50,000 for protocols that produce inferior results. This sentence, I would definitely change it. Only makes their service seem outdated. The peptides were deliberately restricted because they work too effectively. Okay. Generally, I would say this is... right here, they mentioned Brian Johnson. What elite wellness experts are saying. Brian Johnson spends $2 million annually trying to achieve what Frank experienced for under $100. So, as you can see, right, they did include Brian Johnson here, which is like... when you're building your advertorials, no matter what niche you're in, you really want to study your customer, because that's the most important thing. Studying customer, that comes before making the headline, before writing the advertorial, because what you think and what I think, right, it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. What matters is what your prospect thinks, exactly their experiences. And instantly, I already know when you're thinking about like health hacks, Brian Johnson instantly comes to mind. So just including those to bring like familiarity is really important and is really good especially when you're scaling, because those extra few purchases, they'll help you, they will stack on like these extra conversion rate optimizations and make you profitable. A document over 800. Okay, so they've got some testimonials. They got this image which is kind of weak. Obviously made it with AI. I thought you can drag it here. Restricted peptide bioregulators. Olympic training facilities. I would stick to the Singapore concept. Lion's mane extract. Ashwagandha. Collagen peptides. Yeah, okay. They went through the transformations pretty early. They kept the story pretty short, actually. Devastating chronic joint discomfort, mental fog, energy levels, 14 different supplements, and medications just to function. I think this is a bit extreme. You want it to be believable when you're writing your advertorials. Day-to-day, neutral reset, physical transformation, cognitive resonance. Okay. Why billionaires fly to Singapore for anti-aging. A hedge fund colleague. Okay. A 90 formula that delivers what 2 million longevity protocols can't. I don't know if I would include protocols here. They mentioned it later, and they obviously use some AI to make this copy. Okay, so let me just reread this if I'm correct. Executives in your industry. So I'm really not too sure about this. If I would include this, your competition, which is like, I'm assuming they're selling to anyone who's older that wants to live a longer life. Okay, let's say they're 50, right? This guy who they wrote, he was 67 years old, his biological age 92, today biological age 34. This is actually really good. This is interesting. Okay, I probably wouldn't think of this, but they said his biological age 92. So that's basically saying this guy is 67-year-old, but he's as if he's 92, right? And for me personally, like that's kind of a discovery for me. I'm not too sure about the people who, like, the market of who's reading this advertorial, if they're like aware of, this biological age 92, he was 67 years old. For me personally, I would kind of go deeper on that, right? I would talk about, did you know, if you're 67, like the average 67-year-old's biological age in the United States is 92, for example, right? I would kind of like educate them about that. But I mean, this is pretty good. This kind of first section right here. Personally, I probably would avoid saying $90 and just framing it. If it was me, if it was a higher ticket product, I might mention it near the end of the copy, just so when the prospect clicks on the link, they're not, suddenly like, whoa, this is $900, right? Like, you can frame this at the end, but like instantly they're seeing prices, which, I mean, I guess it could work. It depends. Like, you really got to test it out. Personally, I would probably not mention that. I mean, it's $90. They got their Singapore kind of mechanism in the headline, but they don't really go over it. See, they talk about McNally's Singapore formula. They don't actually explain about their formula very much. And yes, they have a lot of testimonials here, but there's no images of people. There's no images of people using the product. Really, I feel like a lot of the advertorial is pretty strong, like just general concepts. But some of the copy definitely needs, personally, I would change the structuring a bit. I would kind of extend the story to be a lot more relatable. I feel like they're talking about this guy who's 67 with the biological age of 92. They didn't really sell the story that much. It's only like up until here, and then they just start talking about the product, which I would go through the transformation a bit more. I would either test the page going through the transformation like more of a story, or I would go through a page like, let's say, an informational kind of advertorial. So it could be a comparison advertorial, or it could be about the product, or like a report on the product. I don't know. I don't think I would do like in between, like a hybrid. That's just me personally. Just because, like, if you're writing a story, you want it to be relatable, and instantly right here they said your competition is already gaining advantages, and executives in your industry. Frank now leads a private network of 847 high-level professionals, right? So Frank is an expert who is probably very successful, right? I mean, that's the kind of persona, kind of character that they're portraying here with Frank. But clearly, like, the average 65-year-old, okay, they don't care about that. They're probably not working. They probably don't have a business, like a very successful business. Maybe they invested a lot of money. Maybe they have a lot of money. Maybe they don't. But I'm guessing like most 65-year-olds, right? Let's see. Average net worth 65-year-old America. I don't think it's that Oh, 410,000. Okay, the median is 410. Average net worth is 1.8. I mean, they are 65. I mean, if you invest from a young age, you'll have a lot of money. But really, I feel like, are you sure 1.8 million? Median US net worth at age 65. Oh, so half of them is 410,000. Okay, so I mean, they're that old with 400,000 net worth, like total net worth, which is like, I mean, to be honest, like, it's not really like the main kind of high level professionals that these guys are thinking, right? I'm assuming they're selling to most older folks, right? Older gentlemen, older women, possibly. But they're not thinking of, you know, of their competition, okay? They're 65 years old. They're not thinking about, oh, I want to look so good, because obviously they're old. They're old. Like, obviously some of them might want to get their physical appearance nice, but that's not the main thing. They want to unage themselves, right? If I was a 65-year-old, I want to reverse aging, okay? Now, that's an issue that personally I would change if I were rewriting this advertorial. Okay, first of all, I would include a lot more images of people so they're recognizable and so it feels a lot more trustworthy. I would include images of people using the product with the testimonials, and I would include images of these people. Like, I would put an image of Brian Johnson right here and then a short description and then his quote. Okay, that would have a lot more impact. I would tone down the words in some of these just to make it a bit easier to understand. Generally, it is kind of easy to understand, but still including words like bioregulars and, like compounds, therapeutic doses is good because it's kind of a scientific thing, but just don't overdo it. Right here, they said, secure your Singapore formula before wealthy Americans buy out the stock. They're talking about Singapore formula here. They're talking about Singapore brands here. I would focus on talking literally about the Singapore formulas right here, right? If I'm looking at an article, right, let's say it's just a regular article, like, what I want to see right when I read the first few words or the first few paragraphs, I want to see what I came here for, okay? And then I want to be interested in whatever is mentioned there to keep reading on. And that's the same concept for advertorials, right? I don't actually see anything about the Singapore formula, until a bit later, right? They said the formula came from Bagnali, a Singapore-based research. I mean, they're going over the story at first, and then they introduce the formula, but I don't really see a sort of like formula from Singapore section that's completely explaining the formula. And that's an important piece that I'm missing, right? I want to know a lot more about the product and how it works, because this is literally just oh, that is AI right here. Yeah, look at it. Anyways, because I would really want to see, like, and understand, if I were buying this product, how it would work. Because remember, no matter how good of a promise you have, no matter how cheap it is to the value you give, no matter how valuable it sounds, if your prospects or customers don't believe anything you say, they don't believe that they will get better themselves, they're not going to buy it, okay? If they don't truly believe at the bottom of their heart, that this is real, they're not going to buy it. And especially talking about reversing age, like, that's a pretty big claim right there. Okay, and you really need a lot more proof for something like this to back it up. Especially, it's right here. It's not a physical product where you can show the mechanism. Where you can show, like, the product being used. you all you have is powder, and then your advertorial, talking about scientific things, about proof, everything, right? If I was an older gentleman, I would make this longer, just for this kind of, like, this is like health reversing, okay? This is like reversing your age. Come on, that's a really big deal. So you got to think about that with your advertorials and whatever you're selling. Let's see, they're running this to a Shrine product page right here. Buy two get one free, buy three get two free, buy six get six free, monthly refills. Okay, right. So I mean, I still don't even know how this product works just from skimming from it. And you can kind of generally tell how good an advertorial is just by skimming through it and seeing, do I really understand what it is? And that's a big reason why you need to have really good visuals. Okay, these are just like, I mean, I guess these visuals are like okay, but they're definitely not optimal for a really good advertorial, right? Okay, they have this doctor image with this older gentleman right here. That's okay. They got this, the product, they didn't really have like the product introduced properly. Okay, they have this scientist. Okay, they have this little pill thing, which I don't even think they talked about alternatives, because what other alternatives are biohackers doing? To what alternatives are biohackers doing for reversing health, reversing age? Let's see. Exercise, nutrition, sleep optimization, stress management, environmental avoidance. If you're talking to a 65-year-old who's really wanting to reverse their health, I'm sure they've tried these things. You literally just do a little bit of research. Say they've probably done exercise for their health. They probably done nutrition for their health. They probably optimize their sleep for their health. Maybe they sleep a lot, you know? Maybe their doctor said that. Maybe they've experienced this. Maybe they've experienced that. I really don't see that in this advertorial where they relate to it, okay? And if you're writing an advertorial, you gotta stick to one kind of idea. If they're going for the scientific discovery, I would just straight up like talk about how it was discovered, right? Maybe I would make the writer a 65-year-old who discovered this, possibly in, like, let's say a Facebook group, or they discovered it on a trip to this place, and then someone told them by word of mouth, and then all of a sudden they tried it themselves. Boom, you know, as the writer of the advertorial. Because you can always put the writer as like this kind of, you know, person, this kind of authority figure, doctor, whatever. But if it doesn't feel relatable, if it doesn't feel believable, and if it doesn't stick to one kind of idea, everything just fails. Okay, like, you might be able to sell, you might be able to be profitable, but you're not going to scale to big numbers if you're avoiding that, and if you're not thinking those through. Now, right here, I would definitely add, okay, just a few things. Like I said, for this advertorial, I would add a lot more people using the product and just images of people, right? I would have the Brian Johnson and whoever elite wellness experts. Like, I would have little introductions where you have their profile picture, and then you have like a little description on them, right? I would throw in some relatable things like, most people try X, most people try Y, most people try exercise, most people try sleep, but it doesn't really work, you know? And you're talking about this, how this is, you know, an actual proper solution, and make it believable, right? It might be better if you're saying, oh, I thought it wouldn't work, and it kind of worked, but it worked better than exercise for me, or it worked slightly better than this, you know. So it's a lot more believable, because this is a big claim. So you got to think about that when you're making your advertorials and your kind of market, who you're selling to, you know, how big your claim is, how much you can back it up, and everything. Because trust is a lot. Trust is a lot. They need to trust you very well. Okay? And if you're looking for an advertorial, you can message me on X. I make advertorials for ecom brands. Just message me on X and I can help you with that.